This is Things You Might Not Have Heard, and I am Jacob Payne. And today, 10 stories, as we promised, for a Monday to get you through your past weekend addiction to missing the news. And really, not much missed because we all basically watched the news stories, watched the headlines, watched the networks going back and forth, and it was basically wringing their hands and trying to get something out of the Trump summit with Putin from Friday, which was nothing. But there is some things going forward. We'll get into that. We'll relook at that one and go back forward. We'll go forward into what's going to happen for this summit with Zelensky and all the Europeans today. Plus, today's stories include Texas, where the Democrats are coming home, and General Hospital, which exists maybe more than Ukraine will after the end of the week. And 7 more stories for the rest of the headlines to get you through today's 10. Now, the Conversation Project is your home for headline news, information, and pop culture references that are worth chatting about. And that's what we do here every single weekday morning with Things You Might Have Heard, plus all day, all the time with the actual hot takes and the short takes going forward. Remind you that our website home for all the details and things you can help us out with is online at thisisaconversationproject.com. And of course, our spotlight sponsor today is Ground News. Visit them at our link, thisisaconversationproject.com/ground news. It's an affiliate link, so if you happen to join in with them and use their service, you get 40% off their news plans, and you can help us with a small commission in the back end. It's that simple. So right now, let's get into the news. 10 stories as promised, and we're going to kick it off with the summit that was a bit anticlimactic, if you can call it even that, for what it was. The Trump-Putin handshake was warm in Alaska and began the Ukraine war summit, but didn't have much of a summit. A high stakes moment with Trump and Putin exchanging a notably warm handshake on the tarmac in Alaska, signaling the formal start of the Ukraine war summit, where only Russia was involved in the summit for Ukraine, which is part problem number one. It was a rich, gentle gesture of symbolism and appeared to designate a framework that a summit was a step closer towards democracy and diplomacy in the area, and led to widespread skepticism when everything happened. What happened was a 2.5 hour, 3 hour meeting that was nothing. There was a joint press conference where Putin led the deal, and Trump looked very tired and said, we might meet again soon, maybe in Russia, maybe someplace else. Now, the actual aftermath of this was the optics were more important than the actual meeting. And the optics made Trump look pretty bad and made Putin look like Putin. Putin and the Russian media was all aghast on how great they did and how little else was done to other folks. And the American media, even the Fox crowd, had to kind of just replay over the actual press conference because they really had nothing to show for it. Now, today, on this day, the 18th, there will be a meeting with President Zelensky heading back to the White House, hopefully not acting like last time, him or Trump or Vance, and to hopefully make that not work out so poorly. About a dozen European leaders are coming with Zelensky, and they want to make sure that the Europeans and the Ukrainians and the president of the United States are on the same general page. But Trump is telegraphing his pitch, which is basically to Russia and what they want: give up Crimea and no joining NATO, which is essentially as it is. Now, as I see it, as just some guy who has been bullied on the schoolyard before, this is essentially the bully showing up, asking for stuff, and the teacher sitting between the two kids and saying, okay, we're going to end this right now. You, kid being beat up, can end this right now. You just have to give up the sneakers you've already given up and pay a little extra lunch money to get it past it. That's the concessions. Nothing for the guy that was unfortunately bullied by the person who just came in there and decided to take his shoes. Yes, I was bullied as a child, but it's something that should be fairly obvious to see from anyone with 2 eyes, 1 eye, an ear, or just common sense. We're not getting that from President Donald Trump. The Texas Democrats who fled the state to block the GOP and the redistricting are returning home, both figuratively and literally, as the state legislature's walkout is over. And it's over because the governor can basically call another 30-day special session, and so they can do this ad nauseum. So why stay away if you're going to be gone forever? So, but the point was to keep the GOP, the Republicans, from redrawing maps to give Donald Trump maybe 5 new seats in time for the midterm elections next year, as opposed to when they should be drawn after the next census in about 5 years. There were some negotiated assurances that were given to the Democrats, but the arrow's going to basically going to lose mostly in the process. They're supposed to get some map provisions and some potential procedural strengthening safeguards in the actual House, but we'll see how that plays out. Now, the timing is, of course, bad because what it's doing is giving Trump more chances to get more House seats in the next midterm elections based on solely Republican districts in Texas and maybe other states following suit because they're a little afraid of the backlash from Trump voters. Now, in retaliation, many states, including California, are already trying to redistrict themselves 5 years early. And California has a plan already on the table to give itself 4 more Democratic seats, but it only gets triggered if Texas pulls a trigger on theirs. So we'll see. California's a bit more complicated. They have a special independent, how you're supposed to do this thing to keep people from just drawing up lines and them feel like it. Texas can do it whenever they feel like it. And apparently they feel like it right now. As I said, it's a literal line, it's a political line. The Texas Democrats are returning home, and we'll see what action happens when they get back to the state. My robot editor had issues. For one, the short version that we'll use for going into the newsletter had no problem coming up with the story that we had here. The bullet part apparently said, nope, can't find it. But this is something that's been going on in the news realm, in actual headlines, all late last week and into the weekend. So we know what's going on, and we've been following Oklahoma, so we know what's happening there. They're having a America First teacher certification test, adding to educators coming from places like New York and California, targeting people from liberal states, blue places, to make sure they are following a America First agenda that Oklahoma's trying to go along with. The idea is confirmed that these teachers support conservative values and the state curriculum. Critics, of course, saying it's political, which it is, could block good teachers from entering the state, which it will. But the people supporting it say that, hey, this is what we do here in Oklahoma. We want people to follow along in our values, follow along in the way we teach things. If you're coming from someplace and you want to do something that's radical, we don't want you here. You'll see how this thing holds up in court of both public opinion and the actual courts, and whether it keeps the good teachers from anywhere away. The government of Canada has ordered an end to the Air Canada strike by mandating flight attendants return to duty under arbitration. The problem is, flight attendants aren't quite returned to duty under arbitration. So there's your problem. The deal enacts emergency measures during the critical summer travel peak times to basically put people back in their jobs so that all the flights that would cause chaos and pandemonium for Air Canada and the rest of the world with connected flights would be lessened. The problem is labor tensions are not going to ease up that simple, and many of the air traffic, this one is for many of the actual flight attendants who say it's poor pay, poor conditions, and just people being terrible, aren't going to go back to work to make this thing happen. The negotiations aren't going very well, so there's not much to really go back to, if you want to put it that way. But what we are looking at essentially is bad tidings on all cases. Both the government wants to push this thing because it's an issue. Both the airline wants to push this thing because they're losing money. Both the flight attendants are pushing this thing because they want better conditions. We shall see who will win out in the end, because eventually all will come back to work. All will come back to some semblance of normalcy. But as it is, the actual move to reinstall folks while they are forced to negotiate should be a move that works. It's not working at the moment. On this Monday, when the strike was called essentially on the end of the last week, there's still many people who are pertaining to say they're staying on strike. We'll see how the numbers play out throughout the day and how the airlines will handle all the mess. We gave him a lot of flowers while he was here. We're giving him more flowers as he's gone, as renewed interest in Carter's contributions to the world, especially around political office, but beyond that, with being a governor, being a person who managed other people's elections, and Habitat for Humanity, and just being a nice person. The U.S. Postal Service are unveiling a brand new commemorative stamp for Jimmy Carter for his legacy. It will be a forever stamp, so once you buy it, it'll cost whatever it costs when it costs, and it will be worth whatever it's worth when it's worth. So you buy it now, and 20 years later, you can still mail that letter for the cost of a Carter stamp. The move like this is basically a blend of civic tribute with tangible cultural moments, embedding the leaders of today and tomorrow into the cultural zeitgeist that we have going forward. So more honors for Jimmy Carter, something he has earned. Congratulations to the family for the unveiling, and we shall see more of Carter on our mail, if you still get mail, coming soon. Quick pause from the news so we can glad hand for a bit, ask you for some help. We need you to like, share, and subscribe to the work we do here on the conversation. This video in particular, and other videos and things we do as well. We have an email newsletter. Go to the website and find it. We have the hot takes that are the longer versions of these shorter versions, and we have the quick the feeds, TikToks, things like that going forward. If you like what you're seeing, then the algorithm will think that we have good stuff and share it with more people. It's that simple. If you hit like, I see something as something doing well, the algorithm will as well. If you share it directly with other folks, then guess what? They'll get it directly into the feeds that they trust you. They will go join along and want to be a part of the show. And if they're not really a part of the show, as in a regular subscriber, so don't have to wait for a like or a share. If you're not as well, subscribe. Be a part of the News Nerd Nation. We are growing much faster than we have been for a while in our subscriptions. We're not going to hit that pace we wanted to for the magic number for this year, but any new person into the fold is a plus. And if you want to tell us how to get more people to subscribe, you have great ideas, email me at the conversation inbox at gmail.com and let me know what I can do to do things better or not as worse, as I say often. But like, share, and subscribe to get more people involved with our conversational stuff. More flowers to Tristan Rogers, who has died at the age of 79 after a battle with lung cancer. The star of General Hospital, playing the role of Robert Scorpio for over 45 years, has died after a battle with lung cancer. He was in over 1,400 episodes, bringing Robert Scorpio into soap opera history and, of course, into all of our brains. It was supposed to be a one-off appearance, but the super spy never went away and was one of the favorites for a long time inside of daytime TV's most enduring characters and soap operas as well. General Hospital still survives, still exists in some form out there, and even with spinoffs that didn't work out and things like that, General Hospital is history. It's us. Tributes flowed in from many fans and colleagues from the show, basically calling him a one-of-a-kind talent. He's survived by his wife, Teresa, 2 children, and a grandchild. The passing marks an end legacy that's deeply rooted in Port Charles and soap opera lore. Now, whether Robert Scorpio is much of a big deal, in his 70s as a super spy for the show, not really. They've moved on from the character, more or less, but as a member of the cast in the very, very phenomenal 80s, 90s, 70s, for times where he was establishing it, he was a big deal. When I watch General Hospital every day, Robert Scorpio and Anna Devane, big deals. 2 big deals from The Biggest Loser are being brought to headlines about their personal relationships and how sometimes your working relationships and your personal ones are definitely totally opposites, and you can't quite understand why. Fitness trainer Bob Harper is revealing his disappointment with his Biggest Loser colleague, Jillian Michaels, because she never contacted him following the 2017 near-fatal heart attack he had. Harper emphasized that despite years of working together, her silence was hurtful and contrasted with the outreach he received from other co-hosts. Basically, everyone involved with the show reached out. Jillian, who's been basically in a I'm moving on sort of sense, has moved on from everyone. These remarks basically highlight a long-running tension between the 2 fitness personalities from both inside the show and outside in life. Harper has since become a vocal advocate for heart health, sharing lifestyle tips and recovery practices and commercials as well. But the actual episode between the 2 people shows how public figures carry not just brand alliances, but interpersonal expectations that can spill into headlines. Harper expected Michaels to just say, "Hey, Bob, how you doing? Hope you get better." She didn't. As I said, Jillian Michaels seems to have moved on from all her past entanglements with going forward, being her own person, which is fine. But sometimes you just got to reach back out and show that you do show some love or some respect from former colleagues. This was a story I was not quite sure about. We posted it and you guys engaged in it highly. So we're talking about sororities and the prospects who are now pledging in this moment being banned from using their social media after something called RushTok and the Backlash. Several major sororities have implemented social media posting bans for prospective members, citing backlash from the viral RushTok phenomenon. The restriction aims to prevent overexposure and criticism of recruitment practices, which drew viral commentary and ridicule in recent years. Applicants will now be instructed to limit or remove TikTok content documenting their outfits, their events, and the pledge discussions, with sororities saying the move is designed to protect privacy and maintain focus in interpersonal interactions. Now, critics of the ban argue that transparency is being lost with Greek life. And there's already issues with transparency and scrutiny with Greek life and the exclusivity and cultural issues. If you're not a Greek, you may not understand. And if you're not a Greek, you may understand even more. This happens in basically all fraternities, all sororities, where the goal to get in, fit in, and be one can lead to a whole lot of craziness in the process. And in the cases we're talking about for here, these are for white sororities, the processes where you have to get a sorority coach, you have to pay a lot of money, a lot of things to get into this group that just to essentially look pretty and hang out together at ball games. That's what you get on the surface while you're in college. There is lots of connections and activities and things going forward, but to get in, it's a whole lot to get in. And is the cost worth it? Is the price worth it? Is the embarrassment and shame of being a pledge worth it? You'll see less of what's going on because there'll be less of it on the social media. Breaking news that you may not even know even is news. 2 days from now, Amazon App Store will go away. Being shut down on all Android devices on August the 20th. Do you remember the Amazon App Store? It was a big deal back in the day as the iStore, the Apple Store, App Store came out, and then the Google original Android market came out. And then Amazon, with its Android products, also had a subset called the Amazon App Store to buy Amazon apps, and they were extremely free or some sort of subscription. I was really big on the Fire tablets when they had the Amazon App Store until the Amazon App Store decided to blow up one day early on. Then I gave up on it. Apparently, no one else is using it either, and after 13 years, the App Store is now gone for Amazon. Users will lose access to all apps and updates and purchases immediately, like in 2 days on the 20th. But eligible buyers can request refunds through Amazon's customer service portal for things they're paying for subscription. They cited declining usage and competition from the Google Play as key reasons for the shutdown. If you have Google Play Store, the App Store for Amazon was not keeping up. Kindle Fire and Fire TV platforms will remain unaffected. Things that are especially for the Kindle devices that are used for Kindle things for reading and Fire TV apps are not there. They have their own app ecosystem and they will be fine. It's just for Amazon App Store apps on your regular Android devices. It helps Amazon streamline its digital offerings while minimizing overload from other things that are redundant, getting rid of dead weight. We shall see. Like I said, I stopped using it about a decade ago after they screwed me over in the stuff I bought. We'll see what's going to happen for people who are still using it and the money they will save or not save because they won't get it back. I had football on all weekend. It was in the background. I wasn't paying much attention to it. So the Saints game yesterday was actually a pretty stellar performance as the Saints are trying to figure out who's going to be the quarterback, ending in a tie with the Jacksonville Jaguars, New Orleans Saints, of course. But here's the actual story that's getting most of the headlines right now. And the headline for here reads, Khalen Saunders traded from Saints to Jaguars on same day he faced them in preseason game. That will be yesterday, the 17th. Defensive tackle Khalen Saunders suited up for the Saints in the preseason matchup against Jacksonville and then was traded hours after. The trade finalized surprising fans who just watched Saunders line up for his soon-to-be teammates hours prior. Now, Jacksonville acquired him to strengthen its defense and deepening its basically its line, heading into the regular season. So Saunders has a job. Saunders also has a resume as a Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he spent the 2023-24 season with the New Orleans Saints. So he had some time with New Orleans and was basically ready to suit up and go again. And this time we find out he's going to Jacksonville pretty late. This may mean something for your fantasy football team, so get this on your roster pretty quickly. But the timing of this underscores the transitional nature of the NFL and the roster decisions filling up quickly, especially in the preseason. There's only one, maybe two more games left in preseason before we go into the real what's going to happen. So those folks trying to make those rosters have to show out. Saunders made a roster in Jacksonville by playing in New Orleans, ironically. But is your favorite team going to come? And the biggest thing I have as a Saints fan is who's going to throw the ball for the Saints. The two quarterbacks yesterday both put on shows to see who can be the starter. We still have weeks to figure out who's going to lead this team to hopefully some sense of glory again. We've got you your 10 news stories. You're welcome. And we're going to give you more great news throughout the weeks, if you will. But we do this with the help of a program, a source called Ground News. And you can use Ground News yourself to check your own stories because you may be a bit suspect of something. Maybe we put it out there, maybe someone else put it out there that you're not understanding exactly how it seems or if it can be as good or as bad as it is. Use Ground News. Ground News will help you figure out how good or bad it is by giving you other perspectives. You can see how the coverage is in your favorite news rag and the other ones that you basically tend to complain about all the time. You can see headlines by comparison, see some of the comparison of the main points, and side by side and see exactly who you want to believe, who you want to not believe, and why everyone seems to be not saying the same thing about the same programs. It is what it is. You can get out of your silo by checking out the blind spot feature and seeing what stories are being told by the other side that are being hidden from you for you. And you can do this for a great price. Depending on your plan, you can get your news from Ground News for less than $1 a month or get the full Vantage plan for less than $10 a month. Check it out at conversationproject.com/Ground News. This is conversationproject.com/Ground News. And when you go to Ground News, you will see all the great features they have. If you use our link, we get a small commission back, helping us grow. You can stop by our website to see partnership links and, of course, other sponsors. But check out Ground News. If you're a news nerd, and I'm sure you are, you made it this far with the program, you really want to make sure the news you're getting is accurate or at least not inaccurate, if that makes sense. Not too slimy, not too crazy, not too out there. Ground News will help you. That is all for Monday, August 18th, 2025. I am Jay Cleveland Payne. Thank you so much for joining us for the jaunt through the news. A little longer for the Monday because we had 2 extra stories, and a little rambly because we had some things in there and some coughing issues. And the old camera, new camera, old camera is back. So if you like this one, let me know. We actually have a new camera to install that we never got around to because we had issues going back and forth. So we're going to try to get back into the swing of things and get things back to being cool again and cool like that. Let me know what you like and dislike, and we'll do our best to do better or not as worse. It's Monday, so enjoy your Monday. We'll do this 5 days this week, five weekdays. The rest of the week will be just 8 stories for Tuesday through Friday. But we're going to give you stories that you're going to help us vet for conversation. You're going to see some stories that you have to say were worthy of chatting up. That's how they get this thing here. So with that, good night, goodbye, good luck. We out of here. We love you. See you tomorrow and in the hot take throughout the day. But see you tomorrow for another edition of Things You Might Not Have Heard.